Hi everyone, today I'm going to make a video where I show you the differences in some of the different black paints that are available so you guys can choose the right ones for your work. A lot of you have been asking me about the qualities of different black paints, what Black 2 does that Black 3 doesn't do, what our Raven paint does, how it differs from normal acrylics, and also how different materials react on different surfaces. So today we're going to have a look at wood, metal, plastic, paper, and get a real sense of what the right acrylic paint is for the work that you guys want to make with them. So with that in mind, I've selected 4 acrylics today. We're going to take a look at the Windsor Newton standard black acrylic because this is available pretty much anywhere, and it's a good example of a generic black acrylic paint that you guys can pick up quite affordably wherever you are. We're also going to take a look at Raven, which is the black acrylic paint that we made that's a professional grade black acrylic. Of course, we're going to have a look at Black 2 and look at how that reacts on different surfaces to see if that's actually useful for you, or if in fact a cheaper alternative might do the job for what you need to make. And finally, we're going to take a look at the new Black 3 paint and see how that reacts on different surfaces and in different scenarios. So hopefully, by the end of the video, when we compare the results of all of these, you'll get a good sense about what you need for whatever it is that you want to make. So let's delve in first with the Windsor Newton Galleria acrylic. This is an ivory black acrylic, and you'll see it behaves very much like any acrylic paint that you'd expect. Quite viscous, a nice colour, exactly what you'd expect from an acrylic. Nice solid black colour. And we're going to start off by swatching that on a sheet of watercolour paper. Now, interesting point here, the watercolour paper is going to react a lot like canvas. So if you're a canvas painter, you can take what I do on this paper to be a good example of what this might do on a canvas. I'm just going to swatch it on there. You'll see it goes on quite well. It's a little bit patchy there. It's definitely going to need 2 coats. And I'd say it has an almost, to me, I don't know if it's coming through on the camera, but quite a sort of brownish kind of tinge. That's it on paper. Now over here, we're going to swatch a little bit on this. Now this is a little bit of plastic. This is just white PVC plastic. Now it goes on very smoothly, but the coverage isn't great. And the reason for that is that the plastic is obviously quite smooth. So again, it's going to need 2 coats on plastic. Over here we have some metal. I believe this is aluminium, but it'll be the same as steel or anything shiny. Even a mirror, I'd have thought, will behave similarly. So it's going on there. It's, again, it's not sticking brilliantly on there, the Windsor Newton. But it's worth noting, actually, this is going to behave almost like any acrylic paint you might get from the arts and crafts shop. So if you're going Daler Rowney, Windsor Newton, Liquitex, they're going to be very similar paints. And here he is on wood. That's interesting, isn't it? It's almost staining the wood rather than painting on it. Great, okay, so that's one swatch on each of these. We're going to cut for a minute and come back when that's dry and give it a second coat. Okay guys, so these are now dry and they're ready for their second coat. Let's dive in. So on the paper, it's dried pretty well actually. What I would say is you guys are going to be seeing this a bit differently than we are, of course. I mean, we're doing our best with the camera and the camera settings, but in real life, it's always different. Always different. So there you go. The second coat has actually finished that off nicely. That's a really nice solid black now. Let's see it on the plastic. And again, the second coat has really made that. If I had it my way, I think on plastic, I'd actually give that a third coat. Plastic is going to be interesting for you guys that do miniature painting. If you make miniature models, you're into your Warhammer, that kind of stuff, what happens on this bit of plastic is going to be really interesting for you. Right, over to the metal. And again, it's gone on all right, but I'm going to have to say this is going to need 3 coats to get to full coverage here. And the wood, that's nice, isn't it? That's what you'd expect, a really good, solid kind of black colour. But I'm going to have to give that another coat as well. I think really, unless you're using this on paper, I think 3 coats is what you're going to need. So let's let that dry, and then we're going to give it a third coat and see how it comes out. Okay, so these are dry now. Let's give them their third and hopefully final coat. There's no need to recoat the paper because 2 coats were fine, but on the plastic, yeah, the third coat is needed, and that's finished that off a treat. On the metal, third coat on there. Yeah, that's finished that off nicely. And then last but no means least, the wood. Let's give that its third coat as well. Okay, great. So all of those are done now. Let's dive into black 2. Let's have a look at Raven, actually. We'll come back to these at the end and see how they've turned out. Raven is our version of an acrylic paint. So the same kind of sheen, the same kind of colour that you'd get from other acrylic paints, except the difference with Raven is it's very highly pigmented, it's really good quality, and it's measured for ultimate light fastness. What that means is in 200 years' time, 500 years' time, your art isn't going to have faded. So if longevity of the work and archival work is important to you, then Raven might be a good choice, although it is going to be more expensive than the other generic acrylics that you can get. Anyway, let's have a go with it. Now, the first thing that you'll notice is there's a bit more flow in Raven than the acrylic paint we saw earlier. That's because it's got a softer body, so you'd call this a soft body acrylic. And you'll see it's a very, very nice, rich, dark colour that you'd expect. It's a visible black. Now let's swatch that on the paper, and you'll see the pigment's very well dispersed in this, so it's nice and even, the colour all the way across there, and a very, very good visible black. It's the sort of black that you might want if you want a really solid backbone black for your paintings. Let's see how it goes on plastic. It goes on very nicely on the plastic there. The coverage is really nice, lovely. It's clung to that very well, actually. Let's see how it does on metal, though. That'll be a good test, because this is very, very shiny. And again, it's gone on very smoothly onto that metal, and it's looking very black and very nice. Now let's see what happens on the wood. That's Raven on the wood there. Flatten out those brush strokes, but it's a fair comparison. It's gone on very nicely. Okay, I don't think that we're going to need to give these another coat, so we're going to jump straight in to looking at black 2 while they dry. I think 1 coat's plenty for those. Black 2. So what's this all about? These other paints that we've been looking at are shiny, they're glossy, they are reflecting light. What we wanted to make was a really matte black paint. This is the mattest black acrylic paint you can get. I didn't say the blackest acrylic paint you can get, I said the mattest. So if you want very flat, not reflecting much light, Maybe you want a really solid, flat background for your paintings, or even you're looking to paint the inside of a telescope or a camera or something like that, and stray light is important to you, then this stuff is probably a really good choice. So let's have a look at it. There you go. Similar sort of flow to Raven there. And again, what you'd expect, a very black colour. Let's see how it does on paper. Swatches very nicely. Actually, I'd say it goes on even smoother than the Raven. And yeah. Now, one of the things I will point out when you use black 2 is a little tip. When you paint with it, don't use much paint. To get the most out of this paint, use as little as humanly possible on your brush. A little goes a really long way, and you do want a soft brush like this one. It's just a cheap craft shop brush, but it's a soft one. Now, when you paint with it, don't go and gloop it all over the place. Just spread it out and see how far you can make the little bit on your brush go. And you'll see on the plastic, that's gone on very nicely. That's gone on very smoothly on plastic. And there isn't even a problem there. That's great. And let's see how it does on the metal now, next to the Raven. It goes on very, very nicely there. Again, nice and flat, nice and black. And the last one, we're going to see it on wood. This is black 2 on wood. And again, very nice, very smooth. So there we are. With those, again, I don't think I need to add a second coat there. Black 2 seems to be fine, so we'll have a good look at that at the end when it's dry. And we'll dive straight into the last one, which is black 3. Now, what's this one all about? This is a best of both worlds. So you want that deep black colour that maybe you got from something like Raven, but you want that ultra dead flat, dead matte, no light reflection effect that you get from black 2. So black 3 is different than black 2 in that this reflects less than 2% of light, and black 2 is reflecting nearly 4% of light, depending on what surface you paint it on. So let's have a good look at black 3 now. The flow is very similar to black 2. There you go. Okay. And we're going to swatch it on the paper. Lovely coverage. Very flat, straight on. We'll have a look on the plastic now. Again, of interest for you miniature painters. And you'll see, and this is interesting, it doesn't cling as well as the others. That first coat on anything shiny is going to key the surface. What that means is it's going to give something for the second coat to hang on to. So on anything shiny, you're going to need 2 coats of black 3. Now that might be annoying for some of you, in which case black 2 is your go-to paint. So let's see how it fares on the metal. And again, as metal is shiny, we know the first coat is going to key that surface ready for the subsequent layers. Finally, on the wood. Now, wood, of course, is porous. It's not shiny, so it's soaking that in, and it probably won't need a second coat. Great, so that's those finished. Let's let that black 3 dry and recoat the metal and plastic with a second layer and see how they look. So the black 3 is now dry, and we're going to give a second coat to that plastic and metal. So the first layer should have keyed that, and it will be ready for its final coat. And indeed it has. You'll see now that that's got something to stick to. It's going on really, really nicely. So that's my tip. If you're putting it on metal or plastic, be prepared that the first coat might look a little bit rubbish, but the second one will be absolutely fine. And there it is on the metal, coming in there, and it's sticking really well to that undercoat. Brilliant. Wonderful. Okay, so we're going to let all that dry, and in a minute come back and have a look at the results together, compare how they've turned out, and decide which ones might be most useful for different types of work. Okay, so everything's dried. Let's have a little look at how the different paints have turned out on different surfaces. First of all, on paper, we've got the Windsor Newton black acrylic here, followed by our Raven, black 2 and black 3. Interesting point, all of these are one coat applications, whereas the generic black acrylic needed 2 coats. They've all come out pretty well actually. So I'd say if you're working on paper or canvas and you just want a black paint and a black colour, this generic black acrylic is going to be absolutely fine. If longevity is important in your work, definitely go for the Raven. If you don't need it matte and you just want it black, go for Raven. If you want a really high quality black that's very flat and goes on in one coat, black 2 is going to be great. Black 2 is going to do everything you want on paper or canvas, and you're going to be pleased with that. Otherwise, if you want to go ultra black, super flat, no light reflection pretty much whatsoever, then black 3 is going to end up being almost like velvet for you on paper or canvas. So hopefully that's useful. Now we're going to have a little look at the plastic. Now plastic's interesting, of course, because it's shiny, it's not porous. So any paint you put on it is going to sit on the surface rather than soak in. Let's see how they did. So the first one here is the Windsor Newton acrylic, similar to most acrylics. And you'll see a few things. First of all, you'll notice it is definitely reflecting light. I mean, that's pretty shiny. Now, I don't know if that's coming through on the camera, but what I'm seeing here is a very reflective black. And I can see a lot of the brush strokes in this. It's not very flat. So if you were looking for lots of brush strokes in your painting, you like that impasto effect, that might actually be a good choice for you. Following that is Raven, and again, that's a one-coat application. Remember, we had to put 3 coats of that one on as well. This is getting into one coat here, and very flat, very even. Can't really see the brush strokes. It's gone on very nicely. But again, it is shiny, so your artwork from the side is going to be reflecting light. It's not going to look great in all light conditions. But if you want a very black colour, then that's going to be good. Jumping over to black 2, it's covered it very nicely. It's very flat. We did one coat. It's not really reflecting any light. It's very matte and it's very flat. So if matteness is useful to you, black 2 is going to go on plastic very well. Looking at this, and if I was doing this again, I probably would actually have put a second coat on there just to flatten it out. So maybe be prepared for that. And then finally the black 3, 2 coats, very black visibly. I mean, it is very, very, very crazy black looking, very flat, reflecting almost no light. So it's going to be good on plastic. It's going to be really good on plastic. Let's have a look at the metal now. And it's very similar to what you'd expect from the plastic, really. Both Raven and the Windsor Newton one are, of course, shiny. They're reflecting light. Most acrylic paints do reflect light. They are shiny. And the difference between the two, I suppose, is we had to do more coats of the Windsor Newton. And again, you're seeing the brush strokes. So if that's something you like, then definitely go that route. If you want it dead flat, then maybe choose one of the others. The black 2 has coated it very nicely. It's very flat. It's gone on very well. It's about the same kind of blackness as the others. You could say it was slightly grayer than these by a couple of percent. But it's not really reflecting any light. I mean, it's very matte. And then finally, the black 3, after its second coat, has stuck very, very well to the metal there. And it's very black. It's almost like velvet. 2 coats are what you're going to need on metal. And it's gone on very well. It's reflecting basically no light, and it's incredibly black. Let's look at the wood. The final test, if you like, for these paints. Very little difference on the wood between the Windsor Newton one and our Raven. So actually, if you're painting on wood, I wouldn't go to the bother of buying our Raven unless you want it to like last forever or something. I think a generic craft store black will be absolutely fine, and it will give you that black colour. What I would say is, obviously, it is shiny on the wood, and that's showing a bit of the wood grain. You might like that. You might want to embrace that. But if you did want it flat, then it's going to be black 2 or black 3 for you. Both of them are reflecting almost no light. Difference here, black 2, 1 coat was all you needed. And again, black 3, we gave it 1 coat. Looking at them, I might give them a second coat on wood just to get that richness out of it. The black 3 is visibly blacker, but there's not that much in it on wood, so hopefully that's useful. So there you go. We've had a look at different types of black paint. We've looked at standard acrylic paint, which is quite shiny and sticks to almost anything. That's a good choice if you want to use it outdoors, if you want to put a varnish over it, if you want to use a top coat over it. You're painting something that needs to be weatherproof, needs to last outside. You're going to want to go for those glossier paints. And also, if you're looking for that really black colour, you're interested in colour, you're not interested in the matteness or the light absorption thing, go for a generic craft store black paint, or if you want it to last almost forever, go for our Raven. Then the other 2 paints were the super matte, ultra black super paints, our black 2 and black 3. Black 2 is almost a 1 coat application on nearly anything. It sticks to metal, wood, glass, plastic, and it's a great all-over paint. You can roller it on walls, you can use it everywhere. So if you need something super matte, black 2 is still a really good paint. But if you want to take that up a notch, and you want a black paint that really reflects basically no light and really has that visible blackness, then black 3 is going to be the one for you. Just be prepared. On shiny surfaces, you're going to have to do 2 coats with black 3, so that might make a difference. So hopefully that's been useful, and you can now choose the right black paint for what you need and for what you want to make. But if you've got any more questions at all about this, then just hit me up in the comments below, and I'll be glad to answer them. If you do want Raven, Black 2 or Black 3, the place to go is culturehustle.com, and I urge all of you to get on social media, have a look at Instagram, and look at the hashtag #ShareTheBlack. I'll put a link to that below, because what you'll see on there is thousands of artists using these paints in their own work, and it will give you loads of ideas about what to expect with these paints, and it might even inspire you to make some brilliant stuff too. Okay, thanks for that. I'm always here if you need me. Love you very much. Bye.